Hello, my name is Nicole, and thank you so much for taking this time out to listen. Today, we are talking about cutting off foolish communication. Cutting off foolish communication. Now, here on YouTube NM Enterprise 7, we have talked at length, whether through the comment sections, emails, what have you, about cutting off toxic folks, okay? And I think that we have went over that sort of thing more than enough times, and of course there will be times where you will be reminded again, especially if you are still in toxic situations, okay? But this communication, oh wow, we can cite so many different examples as to toxic, difficult, ugly, downright evil communication. But I'm not going to get into all of the specifics, but what my main point of putting this audio together, thank you, Lord Jesus, for the inspiration, is that we've got to know when to cut off folks that love coming up with some type of reason as to why they want to keep some mess going on, or they want to continue to lie or come up with excuses as to why they didn't do something, and try to twist your words around and come back on you because they didn't appreciate you speaking truth. You see, we've got to be mindful of those that intentionally say things to distract us, to keep from the truth coming forth. We've got to pay close attention to the kinds of communication that's out there that is manipulative, that is brainwashing types of tactics. And if you're not in the know, you believe just about anything people say, or you don't speak up when you should be speaking up, or you get other people to try to fight your battles that you should be fighting with Jesus Christ, of course, in the forefront. Some folks, they get angry with me. If we get into a debate, they get angry with me because I get to a point where I just cut them off. And they say, you don't want to listen to what I have to say. Why do you keep doing that? Blah, 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 blah. I'll tell you why. Because there should be a limit to how much we can tolerate when it comes to communication. You will be cut off if you continue to name call. You will be cut off if you continue to curse. You will be cut off if you say things with the intention of trying to be controlling, okay? Be argumentative. Check folk. Think that we're in some kind of debate competition or something like that, coming up with all sorts of excuses or making up some stories to distract folk from the topic at hand. You will be cut off. Just like there are deal breakers when it comes to relationships, I have to ask some of you all, do you have deal breakers when it comes to communication, or does anything go? Some folks will call you controlling. They'll say that, you don't give me a chance to talk. Why are you always saying this and that? Or how come, you make me feel this way and that way? I'm not responsible for how you feel about the lies that you tell. I'm not responsible for the exaggerations and the excuses. Now, if we're going to disagree about something, then yeah, let's agree to disagree. But what you're not going to do is make me go along with the programming. What you're not going to do is sit up there and say that you was here, there, and everywhere else when the video, the evidence, the witnesses, and everything else says that you was somewhere else. And you got some fools that love thinking that you're a fool. So they come up with all sorts of stories. Oh, well, the reason why I couldn't make the meeting was because, I had this, that, and the other going on. And then you find out from some folks that the reason why they couldn't make the meeting was because they slept in. But they'll come up with a whole story just because they don't want to look bad in the eyes of whoever is asking them questions, especially if it's a person who's in a powerful position who can basically make or break you. So they come up with the little stories, when it's just better just to tell the truth, because 9 times out of 10, the very one that you're talking to, they may have been late. They may have had their share of dramas and issues on the way, you see, or maybe they didn't even bother to show up at some meetings, a time or two. So they could relate. They could understand. You might even have a bond with that person. But the minute you come up with lies, excuses, exaggerations, and they find out about it, whatever potential friendship you could have had, partnership, business deal, what have you, that's it. That's it, because sooner or later, what is in darkness is going to come out into the light. We've got to know when to cut off that communication with somebody that we know is telling lies, that we know is good for coming up with all sorts of foolish statements. I don't care what the title is. Mama, daddy, sister, brother, cousin, uncle, aunt. You keep coming up with one story after another. You keep coming up with a twist to this story and that one. You got an excuse and you have reasons why you feel the way you feel. Okay, but you know what? We're not getting anywhere when all we keep doing is repeating our conversation over and over again. Have you been in conversations like that where you just kept making the same old point and the person was hoping that you were going to change from it? And nope, you keep saying the same old thing. And after a while, they get tired, don't they? You're not saying anything different. So then when they get tired of hearing you repeating the same thing, then guess what they do? They come up with another story. Right? They come up with another topic. They bring up something that is sensitive, because folks, that know you well, they're going to bring up something, okay, to make you angry or to get you to say something that you shouldn't say, Christian, so that they can run back and tell everybody, see, she thought she thought she was so close to God. Got everybody thinking this, that, and the other. But the truth of the matter is that she really this and that. No, you set that person up. You set that person up. You brought up something from the past that God dealt with them on, and then you tried to make it a present day issue. And so when you went out there and you told everybody about it, basically what you did was you tried to ruin their reputation, or you tried to, pay them back because you didn't like the truth that they were speaking. And those of us who are advisors and teachers and, parents and wives and husbands and everything else, we got those folks that don't like all of that. You're into too much. Your relationship from the outside looking in looks better than mine. And then you get into these sensitive topics and somebody wants to come up with an excuse. They want to come up with a reason as to why they can't become free out of a situation. And then when you get to that point where you don't want to talk about it anymore, now you're the bad guy. But you don't listen when I talk to you, when I advise you, when I instruct, when you ask me, what do I think? And I tell you, and then you come up with all sorts of reasons as to why you can't get it done. Well, then why are we continuing to talk? Because it seems like I'm offending you every time you ask me a question. And then where do we end up? Silent treatment, pouting, attitudes, don't want to talk. You see, when do you cut off that communication? Well, I'll tell you from personal experience, I had to learn how to cut off communication the minute the Lord would speak to me and say, that one's lying. And I did it with a relative a while back because he wanted to continue on with a discussion where he was supposedly in the right. And then he wanted others to go along with it. And then when he got some type of reaction from telling some just ridiculous things that really didn't make any sense, I just cut him off. You listen to him. Just listen to what he has to say, the witnesses said. Why am I going to listen to a known liar? Why am I going to continue to waste my time that could be used talking to my family? Okay, spending time taking care of my business. Why am I going to sit here and listen to this liar try to put a spin on some stuff with a smile on his face? Because some liars are this way. They're not always ugly and mean and, cursing. Some liars are very charming and sweet and nice. And they like to bring witnesses in on the communication, and make you look like you the crazy one for raising your voice or for speaking the truth. And then they have a way of coming up with some type of communication to distract you from speaking too much of their truth. See, because there's some things that you might know and only you know, and they don't want the whole room to know. So if I say something about you, get you all frustrated and ready to walk away, right? Then the room won't know the truth. Because people, unfortunately, a lot of them, they tend to not think very deeply. They don't really see agendas. They, are dumbed down. So they don't know how manipulators work conversation. And they're not interested in it because sometimes they're doing the same thing. So we could sit there and have a debate, and then you come up with something that is totally off the wall or from the past or what have you, and those in the room will start gravitating to the exciting information, the wild information, something that makes you look bad, as opposed to paying close attention to what the manipulator is doing, what the charming individual is doing. Sorry, I had to go there, the manipulator says behind closed doors. I'm sorry I had to put your business out there in the street, but you see, I couldn't afford for you to put my business out there. So, I had to have a kill or be killed mentality. You see, there's a lot of games people play in communication. And if you cut it off early, you won't get mixed up in their madness. You won't end up saying the wrong thing. You won't end up looking like that crazy Christian that doesn't know what he or she's talking about. Because I'm cutting you off because I see where this conversation is going. You ain't going to hear me out? Nope, I'm not. Oh, see how you are? You're controlling. You don't let nobody speak. No, it's not that I don't let nobody speak. I'm just not letting you speak right now to me about some foolishness, because I know what you're doing. You're going to deviate from the conversation to get at me, to keep from other people hearing what you're really about, since you want to put everything out there, or since you want people to look at you as being God sent, or whatever it is that person is trying to do with communication. And people know how to wield communication like a person knows how to take a sword in a sword fight. And if you see that the person is starting to act out of character, or they're bringing something to your attention and it really doesn't have any bearing on the conversation, the current conversation, or the atmosphere isn't right for that type of communication, then why would you entertain it? And there's ways of cutting people off without being coarse about it, without having an attitude. You can simply say, I don't have time right now to talk. I'm busy with this, that, and the other. Well, just hold on for a minute. Nope, I'm sorry. And you keep it moving. You keep walking. And they can go ahead and talk to anybody and everybody about how you don't give them the time of day and all that. And then they might start saying some things about what they intended on telling you. And then if the person who they are confiding in is a righteous person, they'll quickly say, well, that kind of conversation I wouldn't have participated in either. I mean, if you planned on saying all that, you see. And they don't like that. Oh, no, because that person who was supposed to support them on that kind of communication, you're a traitor. No, I'm not a traitor. It's just that why am I going to support you on something that I know all it's going to do is cause strife? It's going to cause divisiveness in the family. You got off easy. The fact that she walked away and didn't want to talk to you. You got off easy when he said, that's it, that's enough. I don't want to deal with it. Now, there are times where, unfortunately, we got to press in. We've got to speak the type of things that, even though folks want to walk away, they want to distract themselves, they want to use children, to cut off the conversation. They want to put on headphones, or they want to go and just mingle with some other folks. There's some communication that is going to have to be shared, and that communication doesn't have to be verbal. You can put it in writing. You can get a lawyer behind it. You can put it on video. Actions speak louder than words. Okay, so if we can't have a sit down conversation and you want to keep cutting me off, well, maybe we can sit down in the counselor's office. Maybe we can sit down when the divorce papers are presented and there's some attorneys involved. I mean, there's ways that we can communicate, you see. Some of you all, you know that for years you have tried to talk to some people, and you have done it in nice ways, good ways, okay, loving ways, kind ways, and yet they still somehow say something to frustrate you. They still somehow have a way of cursing and cutting folk down. The best advice that I can give those folks who have been going through much for so long with some folks is cut off communication. That means that they don't need your cell phone anymore, your cell phone number. They don't need to know where you are at all hours of the day. That means that some folks need to stop posting so much information on Facebook and elsewhere. Then this way they don't have anything to say about you, or you need to just disconnect some folks. Okay? And those that want to carry information, they say they're cool with you and they're cool with them. You know that conversations are going to happen between mutual friends, so you can cut them off too. But I really like her. Well, but you don't want folks to go back and tell your information, and maybe you need to cut them off too. There's plenty of things that we can do to ensure that we don't get drawn into conversations that ultimately end up entrapping us through all sorts of satanic schemes, techniques, strategies, programs, and you name it. And there's plenty of those types of tools out there that are designed to kill, steal, and destroy people's ideas, destroy their reputations, kill their spirits, so that they will not continue to work for God. And some folks are orchestrating plans as we speak for the Christian to get the Christian to talk. And then once the Christian talks, then they start pulling out some information on the Christian, only to sit back and make them feel bad and cause people not to respect them any longer. But we serve an awesome God. And the enemy is not going to win when we are praying and fasting and trusting in him. The enemy might think he looks like he's victorious and this is a win and a slam dunk and a, just a good time with us. But the truth of the matter is that no, if anything, he's setting himself up, and that every curse will be reversed. Every trap to get you to say something that you shouldn't be saying will easily come back to haunt that devil of a man or woman who's up to no good using communication. Sometimes husbands and wives are caught in a bunch of mess, and they know that they have dishonored their partners in so many different ways. And so if you as a spouse approaches your spouse about any number of things, he or she is going to come up with some ways to get out of that conversation. And the sad part is that liars are the first ones that want to say, you're not letting me talk. You're not letting me talk. Meanwhile, in their mind, they're coming up with yet another lie or something else to try to dissuade you from getting down to the nitty-gritty truth. No, we're not going to let liars talk. Until you bring the truth, no, you're going to be cut off. You should have, like I said, deal breakers. You should have some type of boundaries set when you're communicating with people. Okay, I'm going over here to talk to my manager. When I talk to my manager, I'm going to make sure that I only stick to the points. Now, if she starts talking about some other stuff, I'm going to excuse myself and go head on and do whatever I need to do, because I'm not getting caught up in all of the gossip and the lies and the dramas. Okay, because she's a poor manager. I'm not going to go into this atmosphere with my buddy, with my road dog, with my friend, having conversations with these people, knowing full well that these people don't like my buddy, my road dog, my friend. Instead, I'm going to be quiet, and they're going to ask me, why are you so quiet? And I'm going to say, I'm just relaxing. I'm just enjoying the scene. I'm just, feeling the music. You see? You've got to have a plan prior to communicating, especially with difficult, toxic, ugly folks. In-laws. Oh, my goodness. I've had my share of in-laws over the course of my life, including those that I did not, didn't marry their sons, but they were the, boyfriends and mama, whoever, whatever, as well as cousins and so forth. And let me tell you about dealing with folks like that. Okay. Those difficult in-laws. They are looking for anything and everything that you say, so that they can go back and tell someone, somebody, anything. Because if they don't like you and you married into that family, they're looking for anything to tell your partner. Okay? So it definitely pays To go to a family event and only talk about the food, the drink, the music, the, appetizers, whatever the activities are, and stay away from talking about people, even though they're running their mouths. And the minute you hear that sort of conversation come up about she this and he that, and it sounds negative, excuse me, I got to go tend to my child. Oh, excuse me, I've got this to do and that to do. Oh, let me see if I can help so-and-so with the appetizers in the kitchen. You see? The enemy's going to pull us into conversations, and we can cut the enemy's head off quickly. Let's say that you get pulled into a conversation and they're coming at you blazing. They're cursing. They're telling you about your mama, your daddy, and everybody else. They're telling you how you're no good, what have you. You can defend yourself. You can defend yourself and tell them how you feel about what they're saying. And that from that point on, you will not be communicating with them anymore because they crossed the line. They were disrespectful. They were ugly about it. Well, I don't care. I'm just telling you like it is. Because some folks like to showboat, right? Snap their fingers, twist their neck, be loud. That's fine. But understand that there's consequences for behaving this way. I don't care. Okay, sure. And then you go and you pray in the name of Jesus. And even if it hurts you, even if you got tears in your eyes, you pray in the name of Jesus that person gets right with God before they close their eyes. Because a lot of times all that fighting that people do, they're so close to death, it's not even funny. All that warring that they do with different people, they're so close to death, it's not even funny. And the enemy is using them to do as much damage before they close their eyes. But if you can cut off some folks, do it. And don't allow your children to be communicating with these folks at these different events. Because a lot of times these people will use children to get information. You tell your children, listen, I'm not getting along with so-and-so. So when they come and they start talking to you about this, that, and the other, you go run and play. You don't even give your children scripts about how to deal with folks. You just tell them, go run and play. Or come get me. Don't say one word. Now, if they have to say something, it's hi, bye, hello, goodbye, right? You've got to train children for the enemy that's at work. As much as you think your innocent, lovely little sweetheart would never say this and never do that, well, you never know. And then all you need is for an adult to go back and tell everybody how your child was disrespectful, or your child started telling all this stuff that happened in the household, and whoa, honey, you don't need all that. And sometimes if the tension is just that bad with some folks, you don't even need to bring your children around that foolishness. And holidays are good for bringing out all sorts of ugly. So you start prepping your children early about what to say and what not to say before they get into these atmospheres. And then if they slip up and they say something, well, you can be loving about admonishing them, or you might have to set up some consequences, because repeated violations, they do need to be told. They need to experience some things, if you know what I mean. Because there is no getting away with stuff. As believers, we've got to protect ourselves, protect our families. The demonic is out there. It's real. You may not want to believe in God, some of you all, but you better believe that there's evil. And just as there's evil, there's also good. There are those that love and there are those that hate. And a lot of times those that hate are those that we least expect. And their communication a lot of times will tell us how much they hate us, how much they're jealous of us, even with a smile on their face while they're talking to us. So cut off the communication the minute you see that it's going nowhere. The minute that you feel like people are acting out of control. Cut off the communication if you feel like you're going to go there and you're going to lose it. Cut off the communication if you feel like someone is a little bit out there, a little bit crazy, a little bit strange, okay? And we run into these folks, especially at bus stops and on corners of streets and in stores and so forth. There's no sense in continuing to have a conversation with someone who you can visibly see. A lot of times you can visibly see that they're off. And they might end up doing something or saying something to hurt you or those you love. So it's always best to just be quiet in situations where we don't really know what to say. So I thank you so much for taking the time out to listen. Please do check the description box for anything related to your situation. Also, if you haven't donated, please do donate. If you would like to subscribe, please do. This is YouTube NM Enterprise 7. Thanks for listening, and to God be the glory.